Hello, everybody. This is Andre McCarter. Touch in a conversation with Andre McCarter. We appreciate you coming in and listening to us. We're trying to bring basketball up to the level that we see it at and even beyond for the future. And in order to do that, you need information. You need guidance to get where you need to get. For the young people out there, we got information here that's going to take you to that next level. And we have people on our show that have been there. And one of them definitely has been there. He's a Hall of Famer. He's an all-time NBA player. And he's a two-time defensive player. That's important. He played some defense too. And we all know he has the shot that everybody talks about. And I'm welcoming into our show today, Hall of Famer, NBA great, Jamaal Wilkes. Hey man, what's going on, Silk? How you doing?
Hey man, it's good to be with you on your show, man. Nice to visit with you always.
I appreciate you, man. So you were drafted 11th overall when you came out of school. Um, what do
Yeah,
you think about that?
Andre, back then the draft wasn't as big of a deal as it is now.
Mhm.
And I was, although I had a lot of success there at UCLA with you and Coach Wooden and Bill Walton and all the guys, there was still a lot of questions about, because I was very slender, could I withstand the rigors of the NBA? And I'll never forget one of the Bay Area writers asked Coach Wooden, uh, what did they think about me, and, my size being so skinny. And Coach Wooden allegedly said, the writer quoted him as saying, well, one thing, you don't have to worry about him pulling a muscle because he doesn't have any to pull. So
Yeah.
and then, so with that kind of mindset I was approaching. But when they drafted me, first of all, I was just pleased to get drafted. Like I said, back then, we as you know, we had the great players, we had a great
Mhm.
everything, but the game hadn't evolved quite to where it is now. And so, the draft was basically, it wasn't even covered back then,
Right.
honestly. And
Mhm.
uh, but I was tickled pink to stay in California. Now, growing up, and I grew up in California. I grew up in a little town, Ventura, and I graduated Santa Barbara High School. But every holiday, uh, we would go to the Bay Area, where I had cousins on both sides. And so, you know, I'd be in the West Oakland, the ghetto of West Oakland,
Right.
Berkeley. And my family and their friends, would uh, make sure I knew what was going on. So even though I was this nice little young man, and I was nice because my parents raised me that way, but
Mhm.
I knew how to get tough. I mean, and it shocked a lot of people over the years because they don't think that that's part of me. But at any rate, I was tickled pink to go to an area I was already comfortable with. I had extended family there.
Mhm.
Now, the prospects of the team weren't all that exciting. It was not all that exciting because uh, they had, I think, 5 first-round picks. The 5 previous first-round picks had all been bust,
Mm.
and one of them, I don't want to mention his name, but turned out to be a heroin addict. And
Mm.
so, you know, with that backdrop, it was kind of like, okay, from their side, management and
Right.
ownership, they were a little bit skeptical, as you could well,
Mhm.
anyone could understand that. And they had a great superstar in Rick Barry, and I didn't know much about Rick other than he could put the ball in the hoop,
Mhm.
and so I was asked a lot about how are you, a Coach Wooden protege or someone from the great program we went through, going to get along with a guy like Rick Barry.
Mhm.
And that kind of confused me because I didn't know what they meant. Well, I found out Rick was very outspoken and
Right.
and could be very critical, and all the things Coach Wooden
Right.
taught against.
Right.
But one thing, as I got to know Rick through the season, I realized that he was hardest on himself
Right.
than he was anyone else, and that kind of gave an opening to for some mutual admiration and grow. And then another thing, he was very involved with, to my surprise, through his church, the inner city young people raising money and funds,
Right.
and so that kind of, and then Clifford Ray, who had been traded the summer I got drafted. He'd been traded from Chicago to the Warriors for Nate Thurman,
Hmm.
the great Nate Thurman, and Clifford was just one of those personalities who just kind of made sure everyone got along.
Hmm.
And so he was a real effective bridge, uh, especially between Rick and the rest of us, which was primarily black ball players, because Rick is an alpha male, and really drives hard, and Miami, University of Miami, and needless to say, we all had big egos. But also Al Addles, I was real curious to. I didn't know him well other than through his reputation, and I was really looking forward to interacting with him, and having a black coach. Quite honestly, I never played on college or pro where I had a black coach, and so that was another pride factor. So all in all, to answer your question, I'll give you a long answer to your question. I was ecstatic to get drafted. I was ecstatic to be in the Bay Area. I was really kind of, iffy about the team, but I was open-minded, and it was just a great opportunity for me to get into a situation like that where I could learn and grow and contribute.
Well, things went pretty fast though, because you guys turned around and won a national NBA championship, I should say. So you adjusted quite well, evidently, and you guys were able to put together an unbelievable run to win a championship. Tell us a little
It
bit
was
about
unbelievable. It was unbelievable, but it was unexpected, totally unexpected. We were expected to finish fifth in our division. It was just one of those wacky, wacky situations where we pulled it off, and to this day, I don't think the NBA really or fans really believe we won it that year. We swept the
that. Right,
Washington Bullets, who had the best record in the league that year, and they were supposed to sweep us. We just shocked the world.
right.
But I mean, you're right. On outward appearances, things did happen really fast, but it was just a universe brought it all together for us.
I want to step back in your youth a little bit, because now you had the problem of being skinny going to the NBA, but you also had another problem, quote unquote, to some, about your jumper, about your shot. Now here you are skinny, you're up there in Santa Barbara. It ain't like Philly, New York, Chicago, Detroit, Oakland, you up there in Santa Barbara, right? And then the greatest coach in the history of the world, whatever, comes up there, looking at this skinny, wind up shooting, kid up here in Santa Barbara. How did that, all encounter come with Coach Wooden deciding that you were, a guy he could use to
Well, I don't know. Did Denny Crum recruit you out of high school?
Yeah, Denny Crum recruited me, and then he was gone.
Yeah, well, Denny recruited me too, and so my junior year I was at Ventura High, and the first time, Coach didn't like to go on trips and see guys. He didn't like
Yeah,
to leave home,
yeah.
and so when he came up and saw me, and I stunk.
Right.
Coach Crum said he was so embarrassed,
Mm-hmm.
and and uh, and he said Coach was quite upset with him too for taking him away from his family. But at any rate, Coach Crum kept pushing and got me a second chance, and then I was at Santa Barbara. He came back up, and it was much different.
Mhm.
But it was an interesting story. But my jump shot, Andre, I never knew I was shooting any different
Right.
uh, through high school, even through college. Now, my sophomore year at college, the first, I think the second or third day of practice, coach calls me over. Keith, come here. And you know how practice was. I mean, I was
Right.
like stunned. I was terrified. I
Right.
didn't want to be singled out for
Exactly.
anything. It was so quiet in there. You could hear a
Right.
pin drop.
Mhm.
And so he calls me over, and I'm like petrified. And everyone's looking up, looking to see what's going on. I mean, Farmer, the older class, Bill, Greg, guys, and he says, "Now, Keith, I want you to shoot some baskets, like around the key. You know that?" I said, "Yeah, I know what that is, coach." And he's, and you remember he had those steely blue eyes. It's like he's
Yeah.
looking through
Oh
you,
yeah. He
looking
looked
down
through
in
you.
your soul.
Yep.
And he said, "And I want you to shoot some baskets, and I'm going to rebound for you."
Mhm.
Andre, I couldn't
I
believe
know.
it.
I
I
know.
absolutely, I mean, I was just totally stunned. I couldn't believe that Coach Wooden was going to rebound for me. I mean, at
Right.
that time, I mean, we're all a work in progress, but at that time, I was nobody.
Right.
I mean, I was just a nobody, from nowhere,
Right.
and so I shot, man. It must have been, man, about 40 shots, a lot of shots, and I was drilling it.
Right.
Then he calls me over again. Looks at me. He says, "Now, how did you shoot that?" And I'm kind of confused because no one ever said anything to me about my jump shot before
Right.
that. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, well, I do this, I do that." And he says, "Now, does the ball leave your fingertips?" And I thought about it. And I said, "Well, yeah, coach." And he said, "Well, does it have a good reverse spin on it?" And he rolls the ball out with two hands and it comes back to him. And I mean, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I'm thinking that to myself. I said, well, yeah, coach. And he just kind of looked at me intently and he said, "Okay, you're dismissed." We never talked about it again until years later. We laughed at it. He said he thought about changing my shot, but he could see I was so comfortable with it. And he
Right.
said my start and my finish was textbook. It was just what happened in between. And
Exactly.
he decided he never said anything to me about it.
Right.
And I'm so grateful and appreciative to him for that because as yourself,
Right.
a lot of coaches, you got to change.
That's right. There's no
And,
question
and
about it.
maybe I could have made the change successfully, maybe not. I don't know, but
Well, I'm
uh,
gonna tell you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
let me jump in here. See now, I, I'm glad you didn't, but the reason why now, here's what I gotta tell you. First of all, I'm defending your shot all the time, but it helps with touch gloves because it makes my point when I try to tell people like in the touch gloves, the touch gloves are made to force you to use your fingertips because that's where all your touch is really in here. It's not in this part of your hand. So when I say, people say, well, what about Jamal's shot, man? Like that. I said, hey, man, but the bottom line, just like Coach said, the bottom line is when it releases, though, it's coming off the fingertip. That's where the touch is at. That's why that's why he's silk. That's why that stuff is soft. When he miss, even when he miss, it's soft.
And
But the
yeah,
second thing,
you remember how coach was. He was always teaching, and I think back on that incident because I'm a sophomore. I'm a 17, 18-year-old kid, and I really appreciated how he just thoroughly took me through it to
right,
make sure what you just said, just
right,
that technically I had to touch. It was
exactly,
coming off my fingertip. I mean, he really just and he did it personal by
right,
rebounding for me. He made it real personal.
right. Wow.
And yeah,
That's
it
some
was
deep
really
stuff, man. Because now you helping,
yeah,
you really saying something here because when I showed Coach Wooden the touch gloves and had him put them on and stuff, and when you put them on, I have this 5-second test. So when you take a dribble or something, you can't feel the ball except for with your fingertips. So it's amazing that, but see, it's right to my point that I'm trying to tell the whole world. You guys are listening out there. You just heard what he just said. John Wooden recognized the importance of fingertip touch. He's talking to Jamaal Wilkes, one of his all-time Hall of Fame players, about is the ball coming off your fingertips, Jamaal? This is John Wooden to Jamaal Wilkes as a 17, 18-year-old at UCLA, your age possibly. Is the ball coming off your fingertips, young man? Because if it is, then you know you have the touch that's necessary to do what you have to do. But the second part is, this is insider information, is that I was in a practice, and I don't know if I've ever told you this. I was in a practice with this gentleman, Jamaal Wilkes, right? And so Coach Wooden had drills. Everything drill he did was based on the game. It was all leading to shots you're going to get in the game. And so we're going through practice. In the beginning of practice, we were doing some drills, some shooting drills, whatever. Jamal's making every shot. And I don't know what happened to him. I mean, he shoots good all the time anyway. But for some reason, I realized that he's making all the shots this day. You know, so I said, I'm going to keep my eye on the situation. So I keep watching. He keep boom, next drill, you know, boom, bank shot, bam. We running the offense. Jamaal gets the shot off the offensive play. Good. I'm going, man, the whole practice, I didn't see Jamaal miss one shot. Not one. All of them was just like butter. Boop, boop, bam, boop, 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 boom, swish, 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 boop, 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 boop. You know, so I guess, Coach Wooden, greatness is in his ability to adjust. And that's one of the things that, as hard as he was on fundamentals and different things he wanted to have happen his way, he also, his asset to me was his ability to adjust to certain things. And that was a big adjustment to let you go on. But I want to move on to getting at your NBA shooting careers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you were right around 49.9, so let's go to 50% that you shot for career in the NBA?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Right under 50, right there.
49, well, that's what I'm saying, 49.9. I think the point, I think I wrote down in my notes of 49.9. I go ahead and give you that other little chippy to get it at 50% from the field.
Thank you, Dre.
Right? Yeah, man, 50%, man. You shooting 50, and you're not a center. See, centers, you can, okay, this guy, Bill, can shoot it, Will, whoever. They close to the basket. Kareem, all right, 50%. This is Jamaal Wilkes, all right? So now I want to move forward real quickly. So let's get to the NBA playoffs against the 76ers, right? Because one of the things I want to say to people, like, I'm going to use the language of today. So everybody's in this Batman Robin thing, okay? So this guy, people think, well, Robin is just, the understudy. This Jamal's is Robin. He was with Bill Walton, so he never got to show all the stuff he could really do when he was there at UCLA. This guy could have led the nation in scoring. He could have did a lot of stuff. Trust me, if he was just on his own, let go and just let him just play. But Jamaal adjusted to the system. He playing with, arguably the greatest player right there in college basketball was on his team, which was a center. And so that 15-foot shot right there, oh, you want to double team Walton? Oh, okay. Go ahead, do it all day. He loved that because he ain't missing. If you leave Jamaal Wilkes to go help on Bill Walton, you might as well just give the 2 points or just put that up there on the, where's the scoreboard? We put them 2 points up there. You better guard this man. Okay, so therefore, what happened? Well, you got, what poison do you want? You gonna leave Jamaal Wilkes at the free throw line, elbow, shooting that jumper that's automatic, or you gonna go down there and try to do something with Bill Walton? What you gonna do? So you were there. Then you come to the NBA. You get with Rick Barry. He's the man, right? Once again, the alpha man, like you said. So of course, you're young coming in. Robin it up again because you were right there in the mix. Even though you were young, you had a lot of contribution in them winning. One like you were on the bench in your first year, whatever. You out there, doing work when they won the championship. And then you come along, and now you with two of these guys. So it's Robin. I don't know who. Kareem want to be. Kareem ain't gonna be Robin. So Magic got to be Robin 1, and Jamal's Robin 2. Like that.
You got it, Dre back.
You know what I mean? So
1 and 2.
Robin, yeah. So Batman, yeah. So Batman. So Batman gets hurt going back to Philly. to play, against Dr. J in a tough, big time team, the 76ers. And, Magic's a rookie, and Magic makes the declaration on the way there, or at some point that, he's going to play center or whatever. That is determined he's going to play center. So he goes out and has a great game, record producing game. They win without Kareem, who's injured, and it's marvelous. But in the background, right over on the statistical page over there was a young man, Robin too, in this situation, who was lighting up the Sixers. Yeah, Magic's doing what he's doing, but like I said, which poison do you want? So, you gonna run over there to stop Magic and double team him? Oh, go ahead. Jamal's like, you going over there to help? Oh, okay, no problem. Going over there. Meantime, what you get that game? 36, 38? How many you drop on them?
37.
37? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's 37 over here, just quietly, and nobody noticing. Ain't nobody, they ain't ballyhooing about it. They talking about Magic. Magic did this, Magic. Yeah, that was cool.
Well, now, let me say, I got two things to say there. Now, first of all, the Magic, if you recall, and you probably don't, you can go back and check it. That same week, earlier that week, the Rookie of the Year voting had come out. And Larry Bird won Rookie of the Year.
Right.
And, that was okay, but it was embarrassing, the vote.
Right.
I mean, it was just ridiculous. And we felt that, if anything, it should have been a co-rookie situation. So right. Magic had a lot to prove going in. That was his stage.
Yeah.
He was super motivated. So I'll say that. Point. Secondly, I'll say, as far as being Robin 1 and 2 or 3, I learned at a very young age, the most important thing, all people remembers who won.
Right.
That's all people remember. I was in 8th grade, and we were playing the other junior high schools, and we played this one school, and they had like 5 good players, and
right.
my school was me and 4 guys who liked the game but really right. couldn't play, and we lost, and every talk, they had this one guy, and they thought, he's better than me, blah blah blah. And I was a youngster. I was 8th, 9th grade. Well, I was 9th grade, and I learned then that the most important thing to me was to win.
Right.
And everything after that came second. If I could be the most valuable player, or an award, or no award, or not even play but a minute,
right.
The most important thing was to win. So that Robin status, I embraced it, and it never, it was never, yeah, there were times, I would have liked, a little more, especially when contract negotiations, and you
right.
have to justify, everyone has to, what you're getting paid, but for the most part, my teammates and certainly the coaching staff and the organization always appreciated me. They paid me well for the time.
Right.
And but again, the important thing for me was to be part of a winning organization, and that's where I put all my focus.
Right. And when you and you have to sacrifice. That's the point. Is really the bottom line that young people need to hear. To win, there's going to be some sacrifice.
Yes.
You don't win with a whole bunch of guys all doing what they want to do individually.
No, you don't. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah.
And then we were trained by the best at doing that. He demanded team play at the highest. It's the highest, most important priority. Was team play. So when you went out, it was an asset. And at times it was a liability in my mind, because the people in the NBA, there's only 2 franchises that have most of the championships. There's a reason, because at the top of the game, you have to know how to win. Not everybody knows how to win. People say win, but you have to know how to win. And
Andre, man, you are so right. Not only do you have to know how to win, you have to want to win. You know, I
Exactly.
mean, a lot of people are just so glad to be in the NBA, and you know, they don't, you know, and putting up numbers, but they don't really think about winning and what it
Right.
means. This, what you were saying, the sacrifices you have to make. There's only one ball. I mean,
Right.
not everyone's going to be, you know, shooting a million shots. You know, there's different
Right.
roles. So you have to know how. You have to be open. You have to learn.
Right.
Well, you said know how. You have to learn. You have to make the commitment to learn how to win.
Right. And I think, that's starting at the top of the organization, because the organization has to know how to pick the players and their thought processing too. That's something that, if you're recruiting and talking to players, you got to know how this guy views the game. You say, oh, this guy scored 20 points a game. Because I know I ran into that a lot. They look at, well, how many points you score in college? Well, 9 points a game. Oh, well, that's all you care about. Then, this guy over here scores 20, but probably if I went to his school, I probably average 30 points a game, 10, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists if I was over there in that situation. But I'm over
Oh,
here in this situation.
at least 12 assists, Dre Mac.
Yeah. So, I just look at it and, and that's the way it is. And so certain teams didn't know how to utilize. The point I'm trying to make is that they didn't know how to utilize a lot of guys from UCLA. There's a lot of guys that we played with that could have played in the NBA. And had the teams knew how to use them, because these guys know how to win. Oh, are they going to
Know
get
how to
you?
win.
No,
Yeah.
maybe not. But they know that you can put them in a role. They know exactly what to do to get the job done to win the game. So,
And we'll
but
do
you
it
didn't value
consistently.
that.
We'll do it consistently, and we'll do it
Exactly.
consistently. And kind of a tangent on your point there is, I think in the a lot of times decision makers in the college or pro, they're so focused on what someone cannot do. They don't look at what a guy
Exactly.
can do. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah. But if you don't know that formula to winning, then you're not going to see all that. See, that's the point I'm
Right.
trying to make. I think that,
And you're not going to even think about that at all.
exactly, exactly. So you're gonna
Yeah.
miss on people, as to what they could do or whatever. And so, but
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
go ahead. So
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
now I wanted to ask you one more thing. When you were playing on the NBA part, man, there was a bunch of great small forwards around, man. How did you, how did you get it done? I mean, it was
Thank you.
between the years that you were in the NBA, man, there were truckloads of small forwards that could play. And not just no
They could
guys
play.
over there that could play.
They could
You
all
just
play. They could
give us about,
all play.
some names. Give us a few names. Just names that
Well, you mentioned one. I mean, Dr. J, the great Dr. J. I mean,
hey man.
this guy. Yeah, I didn't have the good fortune to play against I think maybe I played against the Hawk, Connie Hawkins, a year or two, but he was, clearly on his way down. But
Right.
Dr. J, Larry Bird,
Mhm.
George Gervin,
Ooh.
Bernard King.
Ooh.
Um, oh, who else?
And you was around,
Man,
you came when Marcus got in the league and started doing his little thing.
Marcus was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus was there doing his thing in Milwaukee, and then later with the Clippers.
Now were you
Oh gosh.
yeah, so I mean it's like night after night, there's somebody that for you to make two-time all defensive, you were playing a little defense. It means because you had guys that
Yeah.
could play that you were defending every night.
Yeah. No, I was working Elvin Hayes. I mean, I was working my buns off, and I really, like with the Warriors. Like the first 10 games, I did not start. Then I got one of our guys got hurt. I got in there and we went on a roll. And I played opposite Rick Barry. I mean,
Mhm.
technically, we were two small forwards. I mean,
Right.
back in the day,
Exactly.
it was, and had I had a coach who was set on, small forward, big forward,
Right.
power forward, I'd have been probably coming off the bench, and so,
Right.
uh, but, and getting back to what you said about, expectations and not knowing what to look for, I made it work. Now,
Right.
most coaches wouldn't have even been open to trying that.
Exactly.
But Al Addles, gave me the chance, the opportunity. He saw it was working. He stuck with it.
Mhm.
So much of it is being in a right situation at the right time. I mean, in my opinion, big time sports is a crapshoot.
Right. Mhm. Well, I wanted to ask you one more thing as far as today's game and your game. So you know that if you had pulled up from near the hash mark at UCLA before the ball had left your hand, if it wasn't a last second shot, the coach would have been having you over on the bench. So it
Right.
wasn't a shot that you would look to try to make because we were always looking to get closer because we didn't have a 3-point shot. The closer you could get, the easier, the higher the percentage was to make the shot. So that was our
Right.
mindset. So, but if you were in today's game, how do you think you would have fared if you knew you had to shoot the long ball? We know you can hit the mid
I think
range. How do you think you would adjust it with the long ball shot?
I I would have still focused on getting as close to the basket as I could. I mean, on my mid-range game, I love layups, and I think with the three-point shot, had it been more in vogue back then, or I mean, more established as a
Mm.
part of the game, I would have practiced it, and I would have become, I don't know how proficient, but proficient enough that with my mid-range game and the fast break opportunities that I could have made it work.
Right. Now, in today's game, what do you say to young people? Because one of the things I talk about is the touch. That touch to me is the greatest force in basketball today. Without it, you can't survive. So I look at Nikola Jokovic as an example. Here's a guy that in today's game really doesn't fit today's game. He's not quick. He's jumping hardly at all. But his touch is so refined that he shoots these one-leg runners, no matter what shot it is, hook shots, little, fadeaway shots, the three. He's doing all these things because of his touch. Without that, I don't even think he would be playing. With that, with touch, to me, he's the best center in basketball right now, as far as do it all things that they want in the game. That they can pass the ball, he has good vision, he can put the ball on the floor, some dribbles. I mean, he does things that's really amazing, and it's all because of his touch. Without that, then my second player is Duncan Robinson from Miami. In regards to touch, here's a guy that basically his shot. So he's a Division III player. The people from Michigan, however it happened, said, "Man, this boy can shoot."
Yes, he can.
So next thing, they said, "Hey man, go get this guy." So they get him over to Michigan from a Division III school. He gets over there. Now he doesn't get drafted, which was probably a mistake to a bunch of teams that look back. He didn't even get drafted. So then he goes to Miami, and when he goes there, they say, "Oh, write him a check. He ain't going nowhere. That's it. He ain't." It's like once he went to try out, this guy's touch is golden, and his release is so quick. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm saying, without that, this guy wouldn't even be getting a period of a look in the NBA. But in today's game, hey, you got that touch, you can play, and it doesn't matter. And just to elaborate a little, one more that going back a little bit in time is Steve Nash. These kids, oh man, he dunked. You see him dunk on so and so. I didn't see. I don't think I ever saw Steve Nash dunk the
I
ball.
never saw him dunk. I never saw him dunk.
Now this guy is a two-time MVP of the NBA when LeBron James is in the NBA. Just him alone. LeBron James is in the NBA, and this guy is the MVP of the NBA. Why? Because his touch on his dribbles, his touch on his
Well,
passes, his
I'll
touch
give
on
you,
his
I'll
shoot.
give you, I'll give you another example. Take Larry Bird. I mean, Larry
Hmm.
Bird was a slow, 6'10", guy who I mean, he could drain the 3-point shot. I mean, he mastered that. You keep saying you love to give a guy a shot like that, and he keeps making it. But his touch passing was just so critical to those Celtic championships, to those
Exactly.
Celtics teams. His ability, his touch, and his ability to anticipate what was going
Right.
to happen next, which I believe is all part of touch.
Yes, it's no question it is. And so, when you look at the value, I've been trying to tell these young guys that in today's game, another thing that's going on is analytics. So in analytics, these teams are actually higher in their front offices. There's positions for people, and it even rises up to general managers and people that are the higher levels, that if they come from a background or a belief in analytics, that this is where the game is. So everything you're doing is being tracked. So percentages and things like that and how you perform and everything that's being tracked is important to them. So if you're a basketball player and someone comes along and says, okay, what do you shoot from the free throw line? Well, I shoot 70%. Okay. I mean, that's all right. But what would your life be like if you were shooting 80% from the free throw line? Wow, be a big difference. What do you shoot from the 3-point line? Oh, I shoot 27%. Oh, okay. So what would your life be like if you were shooting like 40% from the 3-point line? So how can that happen? Well, in my studies, what I've realized is that the people that can shoot right now, they have that gift. 95% of the people don't have the touch they need. 5% have them. That's who you see in the positions that they're in. 5% of the people have this golden touch. I have like a golden touch of guys that their touch has allowed them to reach the levels that they've reached in basketball because of their touch. 95% of people didn't have that natural touch. I had a gift for touch. If I dribble the ball, I could be looking to the moon. The ball's coming up because, one of the things I've come up with is saying that dribbling, the definition of dribbling to me is the ability to make the ball come up at the speed you need it when you need it. So if you're a good dribbler, you can be dribbling, right? And I don't have to worry about the ball because I can look up the court and be, you play with Magic, so he has that, same thing. You can see the court because why? The ball's in my hand. I got the ball. That my touch is so good. I know when I dribble it, it's coming up at the speed I need when I need it. You know what I mean? Because if you dribble a ball and it don't come up when you expect, you start looking for that. But when you dribble the ball and it don't have what it needs on it, you're gonna start looking for that ball. That's what you see with kids. That's what happens. They dribble and then the ball ain't coming up the way. So where that ball at? They gotta look over there. Oh, there it is, and then you gotta kind of get it again. But if you got touch, now how do you get that? So basketball players, one of the theories I have also is that basketball players and studying this generation right now have reached ceilings because all these kids, they got trainers and everything. Nothing against trainers or anything. They're working with kids and they're training, make sure their feet are right, make sure their elbow is in. They got all the stuff technical, they doing their job. But the one thing they can't do is break the habits that come off of how that ball's coming out and in your hand. You can't control that. And it's supposed to be controlled completely with the fingertips. If you play basketball, you go out in the park, your inside of your hand should be relatively clean and your fingertips should be dirty. That's the proof that you play basketball
dirty,
on your fingertips. So, you have to be able to do those type of things to make the game effective. In today's game, that's not happening. So I was looking at the NBA draft this year, and just like I said about the analytics, so they was saying that the shooting percentage of some of the draft picks, and out of the top draft picks, a lot of guys, some guys were shooting between 25 to 30% from the 3-point line. Unacceptable. But they've had the best training in the world. So my theory is that you reach a ceiling in whatever your touch level is. You practice and practice and practice, but if the ball happens to be rolling off the side of your hand, then you can't see that with the naked eye. You can't see these little flaws that are happening when you release the ball. That's making you not be as accurate as you can be. That's what my studies and what I bring with touch gloves. So what touch glove does is cuts off all other sensory information from going to the brain and forces you to use your fingertips. And that data starts building up in your muscle memory. Your muscle memory is like your hard drive that the computer has. Your brain has a hard drive and it collects everything you do in basketball. So the when you play and you put the touch gloves on and you dribble a ball, my 5-second test, when you can't feel the ball, that information is building a new muscle in your brain. And that new muscle is touch that's coming into your fingertips. So your brain is saying fingertips, 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 fingertips. And thus, after a while, it starts adding fingertips. So to prove that, when you look at unfortunate situations that happen with people that are blind, Jamaal, they could see first. Then, unfortunately, they lose their sight. You know what develops? Their touch. So what does that prove? Touch can be improved. You just need the right vehicle. So, but since there's sensory feelings, because touch is one of the 5 senses, is cut off in your vision, you know, you start gaining more touch because you got to feel things, everything. So now you're touching everything with your fingertips to know where you are, to feel what you're doing, to work on things, to do braille. All these things are going, and so you're using these fingertips and you're developing a touch. So you can feel things. You get so good at it, you can touch a person's face. People's touch got so good that they could touch a person's face. Oh, that's Jamaal. I can tell by the way his nose, and they can feel your face and tell you, know who you are. So the theory is there. What we're trying to do is say that, hey, you have to recognize that the analytics and your touch is controlling basketball. And in order for you to get where you're going, you need something, a tool that's going to break the habit for you and put you in a position to be as successful as you can. And that's what
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's what touch
no,
is.
you're right.
And so a person like you had the golden touch. That's why you're Jamaal Wilkes, Hall of Famer, all these kind of things. I want to ask you one more thing, one other thing that I wanted to ask you real quick. So last telecast, we had a conversation with Marcus Johnson, and he was talking about his boys. So you have 2 boys that went on to play Division I basketball, and we talk about like Kobe's dad, Joe Bryant, and you got the Holiday boys from UCLA. Where there's an extension of players and people that have gone on to get kids that play in sports or whatever. How do you feel as far as the way when Omar and Jordan came along in the system, as opposed to what the kids are facing that are coming in to basketball now? Just taking them through the system.
You mean of going through college?
Yeah, going through high school, just going through the system of the AAU and getting to, where, they get a division.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad when Omar and Jordan came through, but it's gotten ridiculous now. I mean, the young, let's tell you a little story. When I was growing up, I was in 7th grade, and I'd be out playing basketball after school before dinner. My mother would call out, she called me Sonny. She said, Sonny, get in here, put that ball down, come here and finish your homework. Well, today it's like, if you're doing your homework, I said, what are you doing your homework for? Get out there and shoot that ball, hit that ball.
Right.
So yeah. It's even more so that way out of whack. And, it's okay if a young ball player is a phenom, but, there's a lot of really, really good basketball players that aren't going to play in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I just, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. I'm all for it, but I do think we just have to value the educational experience. I don't know, if the degree is all that, but I think the socialization skills you get, being around other motivated people that have ideals and big dreams. I think all that's good, and there's value in that. So that's my only concern, is that if the sports or the music or the art doesn't work out, that our young people can still have meaningful lives.
Yeah, no, that's important. And then the final thing I'd like to talk to you about is that so now you have a new role at UCLA, and we have a new athletic director, Martin Jarman, and he's done like right now he could walk on water. The deal he did with when the school was in despair because Under Armour, wanted to pull out, and understandably, I don't know all the particulars in it, but our society and economy is going through what it's going through, and so Under
Yeah.
Armour wanted to get from under, their contract with UCLA, and so the other last week when it came out that UCLA had signed, with the Jordan brand and the Nike situation, that was a big deal in this whole
Huge,
money,
huge.
situation with shoes and the whole thing. Just tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how it relates to what's going on with this new signing and new athletic director.
Yeah, I've been involved with UCLA kind of as a special advisor. Basically, my role there is to, help with the major boosters. That's basically it. I had no idea how much, how critical fundraising is to the university,
Exactly.
especially the public university. They're always trying to raise money. And
Right.
so, that's basically my role is just to try and, keep them juiced, keep them excited. I'm
Right.
not involved in the basketball decisions at all. I
Right.
wasn't involved in the Under Armour, Nike negotiations
Mhm.
at all. I wasn't involved in the search for, you talk to the people, but I wasn't involved with the athletic director search.
Right.
I met the new athletic director, Jarman, over the telephone. Were you on that call when he had a group of his former players
No, I
on?
wasn't on, but I heard that the call took place, though. I did hear about
Yeah, well, that's where I met him on that call. I haven't met him in person yet. I
it.
haven't been to any games. I'm really, waiting till we really get this COVID
Of
more under
course.
control. But so otherwise, I do some promotional things, outside of that, and do some, financial investing stuff. But my relationship with UCLA is, primarily just to help them with the fundraising and
Right.
to, try and help keep the dollars flowing.
Yep. Well, Jamal, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule
Hey,
to
man, it's my
meet.
pleasure to visit with you. I've always enjoyed our conversations over the years. I know we haven't had many in recent years, but and I think you'll agree, we always had some really good conversations,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
and 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 this fits right in. It's an honor. It's a privilege and a pleasure to visit with you, and I
Appreciate that.
want to wish you and Dolores and the family a wonderful Christmas holiday and a New Year's and Kwanzaa, happy Kwanzaa, and all the holidays, whatever's going on around there.
Amen.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate it, Jamal, and I thank you for coming on Touch In, and we're closing out now. Great Jamaal Wilkes. He's dropping information and dropping knowledge and told some really great stories. Man, we would really appreciate him taking the time to be here with us. And we're signing out now with Touch In and Andre McCarter dropping the mic, guys. Have a good one. Thanks, Jamal.
Dre Mac.
All right. Same to your family.
Okay, my brother.